This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch. I'm here in Brooklyn. I do not know where Tim Dahl is, but that doesn't matter because this is kind of a special podcast. First of all, it's the eve of Halloween and Day of the Dead, and a day we might all either want to be dead or rejoice, which would be Election Day. Now, I found this incredible article, and I couldn't have said it better, or maybe I could have, but I'm going to read this article I found on the Daily Beast today by Michael Ian Black, who is an actor, writer, comedian. And after this little intro, we're going to have a very special Edgar Allan Poe Halloween special. So allow me to begin. Quote Michael Ian Black. It doesn't matter if you want to call it a hate rally or a Nazi rally or an authoritarian Lollapalooza. It doesn't matter if you want to call the speakers unhinged or ill-mannered or fascistic. I don't care what you call the Trumpian spectacle that unfolded at Madison Square Garden this weekend. In this, the blessedly final week of the 2024 presidential campaign, that rally was only the latest shit stain in a decades-long political career rooted in scapegoating and fear-mongering. After a decade of stoking fear and hatred, we have now reached peak MAGA, or as I like to say, peak maggot. What started in the tacky atrium of Trump Tower with a rant about Spanish-speaking immigrants ends with a lame joke by a shitty comic about Spanish-speaking Americans, with another speaker calling Donald Trump's political opponent the Antichrist. We're 10 years into the Trump era, a decade marked by racist scandal upon sex scandal upon financial scandal upon criminal scandal. To say that we're numb to it all would be an understatement. Another woman came forward last week to allege sexual abuse by Trump with a cameo by Jeffrey Epstein this week, and it barely got covered. She is the 27th woman to accuse Trump of sexual assault. Nobody cared. We expect these Trump scandals. Worse, too many Americans crave them. When he or his surrogates attack Puerto Ricans or Muslims or Black people or illegal Haitian immigrants or people from shithole countries, when Trump sits down for dinner with a Holocaust denier, when he refuses to disavow David Duke's support, or when he elevates his batshit and anti-Semitic QAnon movement, when he attacks trans people, when he spends day after day spreading lie after lie, he scrapes away layer by layer whatever used to pass for American civility, until we are left here, a raw and unnerved people, looking at our fellow Americans with suspicion and fear. He did this. In 2015, Trump's initial candidacy was dismissed as the vanity project of a reality television star. That wasn't an incorrect assessment, but it miscalculated Americans' appetite for inauthenticity and vulgarity. And by the way, I thought I used to be considered vulgar. No more. It wasn't that Trump was a reality star whose shtick translated to real America. It's that real America turned out to be more of a reality show than we were willing to admit. The cruelty, interpersonal conflicts, and erratic personalities that fuel our addiction to bad TV has now become central to an entire half of our electorate. The Madison Square rally this week wasn't an outlier, only a very special episode of the Trump show. It's been 10 fucking years of this. If 10 years ago, as Trump mulled his candidacy, somebody had sat down to write a satire of what a successful Trump campaign would look like, it would have looked very much like the coverage of the actual event. Now, consider the following paragraph from the actual New York Times coverage, quote, David Rem, a childhood friend of Mr. Trump, called Ms. Harris the devil. Grant Cardone, a businessman, declared that the sitting vice president had pimp handlers. Sid Rosenberg denounced Hillary Clinton as a sick son of a bitch for linking the Trump rally and a pro-Nazi event at the same arena decades ago. It's not even mentioning the fact that Hulk Hogan tried and for a time failed to rip his shirt off, and the only black speaker walked out to the song Dixie, and that the rally started with Tony, I don't even want to say his name, Hinchcliffe, calling Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Now, I'm sorry, but that doesn't read like a bad episode of Veep. Actually, that sounds like an awesome episode of Veep, but only because Veep is making fun of the fucking idiocy. I don't know how many felony convictions the collected speakers had between them, but it was a lot. Why? Because sometimes the crooks win. Sometimes the worst among us convince the rest of us suckers and losers that we'd be better off with them running the show. When people compare Trumpism to Nazism, it isn't because anybody thinks Trump is a literal Hitler, as his supporters like to say. It's because Trumpism displays the same hatred and buffoonery of the early Nazis with their self-aggrandizing speeches and their cadre of big dumb goons swinging fists in the streets. It's because we recognize the same ugly impulses that compelled what was, at first, a minority of Germans to sacrifice their character and morality. It's because we recognize the fear that caused good Germans to keep their mouths shut and the cold calculations that made powerful German industrials look the other way at Nazi abuses, which led them to ultimately collaborate. It's because we know that dehumanizing language about people eventually leads to the state dehumanizing people. Can't happen here. May I refer to you to Trump's plan to round up millions of people from their homes and put them in detention camps? May I refer you to the fact that a recent poll found that half of all Americans, including a quarter of Democrats, support such a mass deportation? What does that look like exactly when the National Guard goes house to house in neighborhoods across the country? I'll tell you what it looks like. It looks like Nazi Germany in the 1930s. And by the way, let me diverse from Michael Ian Black. So-called wannabe vice president and the so-called wannabe again president dictator both married immigrants. Now they want to get rid of all the ones they're not fucking. I'll go back to the article. Michael Ian Black. When I sat down to write this column, I thought I'd try to keep it light, but you know what? This shit is scary. It's scary because we're a week away from the close of this election, but I don't think there's an American out there who believes that that election will end quietly. Drop-off ballot boxes already exploding. Poll workers are being attacked. After one voter was told she couldn't wear her maggot gear into the polling station, she tore off her shirt, pushed the poll worker, and told the worker to suck her whatever it is she had between her legs. J.D. Vance later tweeted about a woman, "What a patriot." Well, that's where we are. That's who we've become over the last 10 years. So yeah, it doesn't matter to me what you want to call Trump's rally or Trump's movement. The name doesn't matter so much as the human rot that feeds it. For decades, we've been wondering how much more divisive American politics can become. Well, now we know. Hopefully next week, election pulls us back from the brink. But what if it doesn't? What if Trump wins or steals the election? Conversely, what if he loses? What feels like the last straw often turns out to be just another straw. And how many more straws before he's broken Americans back? Now, that's Michael Ian Black, comedian, writer, actor, Daily Beast today. And I have to say, I really couldn't have said it any better. Just to cap that off, the horrifying thing is that it's not only America that's becoming more stupidly right-wing, dehumanizing. It's a lot of Europe at this moment, too. So where are we going to go? I'm not quite sure. However, what do we...
Well, that's the thing. You end up wandering because I think Canada will probably fall into some sort of right-wing hellhole. Maybe New Zealand. I don't know.
Well, the issue is, too, when Bush stole... let's go back for a minute. When Bush stole the second election, imagine if Al Gore would have actually, and I do think he won, the climate problem would be a lot different right now, I do believe. And it was really Bush that enabled someone like...
Karl Rove made a deal with the devil that everyone called him some kind of political genius, and he really wasn't. And as a result, we're now dealing with that, the consequences of that just venal decision.
Well, and also that really a basic bottom line stupidity of this country, for anybody who thinks that it's the greatest place on the planet, has never traveled anywhere else, has never met people from any other place, does not realize how this country was founded on the murder and massacre of indigenous people, how immigrants, all of your grandfathers, numbskulls, came here looking for a better way of life, which you just are turning to shit. Now, as art is the salve to the universal wound, we have a special Halloween Day of the Dead event here right now. It is a new album released on Shimmy Disc, produced by Kramer. 13 poets reading 13 Edgar Allan Poe poems. Kramer did most of the music, available now. Vinyl is gorgeous. And I'm just going to give a little overview because there are some interesting things about Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, he's, of course, remembered for his tales of terror and haunting, but he's also credited as one of the earliest writers of short stories and the inventor of the modern detective story, which I didn't know, an innovator of the genre of even science fiction. I mean, he wrote short stories, poetry, novels, textbook, book of scientific history, and numerous essays and book reviews. So he's actually considered one of America's first well-known professional writers and hence starving artist. And he eked out his living as the country's first great literary critic. Very snarky Poe in his criticism, not unlike myself. He was born Edgar Poe in Boston in 1809. Work is still relevant. Parents were both actors. Parents were performing in Shakespeare's King Lear the year he was born, leading to the speculation that he was named after the play's Earl of Gloucester's son, Edgar. So before Edgar reached the age of 4, his parents died, and he was taken in by a wealthy yet very stingy merchant named John Allen and his wife. They lived in Richmond, Virginia, a place I might evacuate to eventually because at least I'll know who the Confederates are when they live right next door to me, just saying. And they christened the boy with the name Edgar Allan Poe. But by the time he was 13, he had written enough poetry for a book, even though the headmaster at his school convinced Poe's asshole father not to publish it yet. So his first book was published when he was 18 years old. It was called Tamerlane, and not a bad start at 18. It was going. So all his life, though, he lived in poverty because his father left him out of a will, asshole. But how about this? Married his first cousin, Virginia Clem. She was 13. It was different times. He was 27. And kind of good that he married her then because she only lived 11 years and then died from tuberculosis, as people would in the 1800s. So eventually, Poe acquired an editorial position at a popular Southern literary messenger magazine where he became famous for his scathing book reviews. Hello. Yeah. And then he went on to write for many magazines. And in 1845 it was when The Raven, which put him on the map, made him a household name. So, an untimely death by many people in those days. I mean, Poe in 1849 went missing and nobody knew where he was. But when they finally found him, they said, "Where's for where?" Delirious in Baltimore, taken to the hospital and died at the age of 40. No autopsy. Cause of death was listed as many things, all of them vague, like congestion of the brain, poisoning, alcoholism, carbon monoxide, and still nobody knows exactly what the cause of death was. But in spite of that, on this, the Halloween season, the Day of the Dead, Edgar Allan Poe still lives on in his words and testimonies. And thank you, Kramer, who has released this gorgeous vinyl as a loving memory to Hal Willner, who started it before he died. So who's on this? We're going to play the whole both sides of it and then post where you can order it. Is Joan as policewoman, Edgar Oliver, who we've had on the show, Thurston Moore and Eva Moore, Eric Mingus, son of Charles Mingus, Britta Phillips, teller of Penn and Teller, who doesn't usually speak, Anne Waldman, I myself, Larry Ratso Sloman, Chloe Webb, Rick Moody, Jennifer Charles, and a recording by Allen Ginsberg before he died, of course. And so with this Halloween special, and this hellacious week to follow, which we're either all be celebrating and dancing on the graves of assholes or wanting to kill ourselves or everything else, I present you with this very special edition of the Lydian Spin. Enjoy the poetry.
to one in paradise by Edgar Allan Poe. Thou wast that all to me, love, for which my soul did pine. A green isle in the sea, love, a fountain and a shrine, all wreathed with fairy fruits and flowers, and all the flowers were mine. Ah, dream too bright to last. Ah, starry hope that didst arise, but to be overcast. A voice from out the future cries, on, but o'er the past, dim gulf, my spirit hovering lies, mute, motionless, aghast. For alas, alas, with me the light of life is o'er. No more, no more, no more. Such language holds the solemn sea to the sands upon the shore. Shall bloom the thunder-blasted tree or the stricken eagle soar. And all my days are trances, and all my nightly dreams are where thy gray eye glances, and where thy footstep gleams, in what ethereal dances, by what eternal streams.
Gaily bedight, a gallant knight, in sunshine and in shadow, had journeyed long, singing a song, in search of Eldorado. But he grew old, this knight so bold, and o'er his heart a shadow fell, as he found no spot of ground that looked like Eldorado. And as his strength failed him at length, he met a pilgrim shadow. "Shadow," said he, "where can it be, this land of Eldorado?" "Over the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow. Ride, boldly ride," the shade replied, "if you seek for Eldorado."
Because I feel that in the heavens above, the angels whispering to one another, can find among their burning terms of love none so devotional as that of mother. Therefore, by that dear name I long have called you, you who are more than mother unto me, and fill my heart of hearts where death installed you, in setting my Virginia's spirit free. My mother, my own mother, who died early, was but the mother of myself. But you are the mother to the one I loved so dearly. And thus are dearer than the mother I knew, by that infinity with which my wife was dearer to my soul than its soul life.
Once it smiled, a silent dell, where the people did not dwell. They had gone unto the wars, trusting to the mild-eyed stars. Nightly from their azure towers, to keep watch above the flowers, in the midst of which all day the red sunlight lazily lay. Now each visitor shall confess the sad valley's restlessness. Nothing save the airs that brood over the magic solitude. By no wind are stirred those trees that palpitate like the chill seas around the misty Hebrides. Ah, by no wind those clouds are driven that rustle through the unquiet heaven uneasily from morn till evening over the violets there that lie in myriad types of the human eye, over the lilies there that wave and weep above the nameless grave. They wave from out of their fragrant tops. External dews come down in drops. They weep from off their delicate stems. Perennial tears descend in gems.
Take this kiss upon the brow, and in parting from you now, this much let me avow. You are not wrong, who deem that my days have been a dream. Yet if hope has flown away in a night or in a day, in a vision or in none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep while I weep. While I weep, while I weep. Oh God, can I not grasp them with a tighter clasp? Oh God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream?
'Twas noontide of summer and mid-time of night, and stars in their orbits shone pale through the light of the brighter, cold moon. Mid planets, her slaves, herself in the heavens, her beam on the waves. I gazed a while on her cold smile. Too cold for me. There passed as a shroud, a fleecy cloud, and I turned away to thee, proud evening star, in thy glory afar, and dearer thy beam shall be. For joy to my heart is the proud part thou bearest in heaven at night, and more I admire thy distant fire than that colder, lowly light.
Dim veils and shadowy floods and cloudy-looking woods whose forms we can't discover for the tears that drip all over. Huge moons there wax and wane again, every moment of the night, forever changing places. And they put out the starlight with a breath from their pale faces. About 12 by the moon dial, one more filmy than the rest, a kind which, upon trial, they have found to be the best, comes down, still down and down, with its center on the crown of a mountain's eminence, while its wide circumference in easy drapery falls over blankets, over halls, wherever they may be, o'er the strange woods, o'er the sea, over spirits on the wing, over every drowsy thing, and buries them up quite in a labyrinth of light. And then, how deep, oh deep, is the passion of their sleep. In the morning they arise, and their moony covering is soaring in the skies, with the tempests as they toss, like almost anything, or a yellow albatross. They use that moon no more for the same end as before. Videlicet, a tent, which I think extravagant, its atomies, however, into a shower dissever, of which those butterflies of earth who seek the skies, and so come down again, never contented things, have brought a specimen upon their quivering wings.
Obscure and lonely, haunted by ill angels only, where an idolin named Night on a black throne reigns upright. I have reached these lands but newly, from an ultimate dim truly, from a wild, weird clime that lieth sublime out of space, out of time. Bottomless vales and boundless floods and chasms and caves and titan woods, which forms that no man can discover for the tears that drip all over. Mountains toppling evermore into seas without a shore, seas that restlessly aspire, surging unto skies of fire. Lakes that endlessly outspread their lone waters, lone and dead, their still waters, still and chilly, with the snows of the lolling lily. By the lakes that thus outspread their lone waters, lone and dead, their sad waters, sad and chilly, with the snows of the lolling lilies. By the mountains near the river, murmuring lowly, murmuring ever, by the gray woods, by the swamp, where the toad and the newt encamp, by the dismal tarns and pools, where dwell the ghouls, by each spot the most unholy, in each nook most melancholy. There the traveler meets aghast, sheeted memories of the past, shrouded forms that start and sigh as they pass the wanderer by. White-robed forms of friends long given, in agony to the earth and heaven. For the heart whose woes are legion, 'tis a peaceful, soothing region. For the spirit that walks in shadow, 'tis an Eldorado. But the traveler traveling through it may not, dare not openly view it. Never its mysteries are exposed to the weak human eye unclosed. So wills its king who hath forbid the uplifting of the fringed lid. And thus the sad soul that here passes beholds it but through darkened glasses. By a route obscure and lonely, haunted by ill angels only, where an eidolon named Night on a black throne reigns upright. I have wandered home but newly from this ultimate dim truly.
At midnight in the month of June, I stand beneath the mystic moon. An opiate vapor, dewy, dim, exhales from out her golden rim, and softly dripping, drop by drop, upon the quiet mountaintop, steals drowsily and musically into the universal valley. The rosemary nods upon the grave, the lily lolls upon the wave, wrapping the fog about its breast. The ruin molders into rest. Looking like Lethe, see the lake, a conscious slumber seems to take, and would not for the world awake. All beauty sleeps, and lo, where lies Irene with her destinies. O lady bright, can it be right, this window open to the night? The wanton airs from the treetop, laughingly through the lattice drop. The bodiless airs, a wizard rout, flit through thy chamber in and out, and wave the curtain canopy, so fitfully, so fearfully, above the closed and fringed lid, neath which thy slumbering soul lies hid, that o'er the floor and down the wall, like ghosts the shadows rise and fall. O lady dear, hast thou no fear? Why and what art thou dreaming here? Sure thou art come o'er far-off seas, a wonder to these garden trees. Strange is thy pallor, strange thy dress, strange above all thy length of tress, and this all solemn silentness. The lady sleeps, oh may her sleep, which is enduring, so be deep. Heaven have her in its sacred keep. This chamber changed for one more holy, this bed for one more melancholy. I pray to God that she may lie forever with unopened eye, while the pale sheeted ghosts go by. My love, she sleeps, oh may her sleep, as it is lasting, so be deep. Soft may the worms about her creep, far in the forest, dim and old, for her may some tall vault unfold, some vault that oft hath flung its black and winged panels fluttering back, triumphant o'er the crested palls of her grand family funerals. Some sepulchre, remote, alone, against whose portals she had thrown in childhood many an idle stone. Some tomb from out whose sounding door she ne'er shall force an echo more. Thrilling to think, poor child of sin, it was the dead who groaned within.
There is a silence where hath been no sound. There is a silence where no sound may be, in the cold grave, under the deep, deep sea. Or in wide desert where no life is found, which hath been mute and still must sleep profound. No voice is hushed, no life treads silently, but clouds and cloudy shadows wander free, that never spoke over the idle ground, but in green ruins, in the desolate walls of antique palaces where man hath been. Though the dun fox or wild hyena calls, and owls that flit continually between shriek to the echo, and the low winds moan. There, the true silence is conscious and alone.
A dark, unfathomed tide of interminable pride, a mystery and a dream should my early life seem. I say that dream was fraught with a wild and waking thought of beings that have been, which my spirit hath not seen, had I let them pass me by with a dreaming eye. Let none of earth inherit that vision on my spirit. Those thoughts I would control as a spell upon his soul. For that bright hope at last, and that light time hath passed, and my worldly rest hath gone with a sigh as it passed on. I care not, though it perish with a thought I then did cherish.
In spring of youth it was my lot to haunt of the wide world, a spot the which I could not love the less. So lovely was the loneliness of a wild lake, with black rock bound, and the tall pines that towered around. But when the night had thrown her pall upon that spot, as upon all, and the mystic wind went by, murmuring in melody, then I would awake to the terror of the lone lake. Yet that terror was not fright, but a tremulous delight, a feeling not the jeweled mind could teach or bribe me to define, nor love, although the love were thine. Death was in that poisonous wave, and in its gulf a fitting grave for him who thence could solace bring to his lone imagining, whose solitary soul could make an Eden of that dim lake.
Hear the sledges with the bells, silver bells. What a world of merriment their melody foretells. How they tinkle, tinkle, tinkle in the icy air of night, while the stars that oversprinkle all the heavens seem to twinkle with a crystalline delight, keeping time, time, time in a sort of runic rhyme to the tintinnabulation that so musically wells from the bells, 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 from the jingling and the tinkling of the bells. Hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells. What a world of happiness their harmony foretells. Through the balmy air of night, how they ring out their delight. And from the molten golden notes, and all in tune, what a liquid ditty floats to the turtle dove that listens while she gloats on the moon. Oh, from out the sounding cells, what a gush of euphony voluminously wells, how it swells, how it dwells on the future, how it tells of the rapture that impels to the swinging and the ringing of the bells, 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 of the bells, 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 to the rhyming and the chiming of the bells. Hear the loud alarm bells, brazen bells. What a tale of terror now their turbulency tells. In the startled ear of night, how they scream out their affright. Too much, horrified to speak, they can only shriek, 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 out of tune. In a clamorous appealing to the mercy of the fire, in a mad expostulation with a deaf and frantic fire, leaping higher, 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 with a desperate desire and a resolute endeavor, now to sit or never by the side of the pale-faced moon. Oh, the bells, 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 what a tale their terror tells of despair, how they clang and clash and roar, what a horror they outpour on the bosom of the palpitating air. Yet the ear, it fully knows by the twanging and the clanging how the danger ebbs and flows. Yet the ear distinctly tells in the jangling and the wrangling how the danger sinks and swells by the sinking and the swelling of in the anger of the bells, of the bells, 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 and the clamor and the clangor of the bells. Hear the rolling of the bells, iron bells. What a world of solemn thought their monody compels. In the silence of the night, how we shiver with affright at the melancholy menace of their tone. For every sound that floats from the rust within their throats is a groan. And the people, the people, they that dwell up in the steeple all alone, and who tolling, tolling, tolling in that muffled monotone, feel a glory in so rolling on the human heart a stone. They are neither man nor woman, they are neither beast, brute, nor human, they are ghouls, and the king it is who tolls, and he rolls, 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 rolls a paean from the bells, and his merry bosom swells with the paean of the bells, and he dances and he yells, keeping time, 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 in a sort of runic rhyme to the paean of the bells, keeping time, 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 in a sort of runic rhyme to the throbbing of the bells, 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 to the sobbing of the bells, keeping time, 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 as he knells, 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 in a happy runic rhyme to the rolling of the bells, 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 to the tolling of the bells, of the bells, 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 to the moaning and the groaning of the bells. Well, that's a real piece of sound.